Hi, Mark Miller here with Simon Bennett, and we're here for the Zap in 10 video series. In this segment, we are going to cover the interface of Zap. Simon, I'll turn it over to you right now.
Great, thank you. So what I'll do is I've got Zap running. So this is actually the Zap desktop. We have another Zap interface that we'll cover in probably the next episode. But this is the interface that you'll see when you start Zap, at least when you start Zap in desktop mode. So what happens is we have this screen that you'll see about persisting the Zap session. So the idea is that Zap kind of records everything that you do, and you can either keep it or you can automatically bin it. What we found is that a lot of people were only kind of saving their session at the very end. That actually doesn't work so well because Zap actually uses a database. So it's much better to say at the beginning whether you want to keep it or not.
What is being recorded? What is being saved?
Everything, pretty much everything you do. So what happens is you can either use Zap to automatically test your applications, or you can proxy your browser through Zap as well. So that all the interactions with the server and the browser are recorded.
Is it recorded as a video? Is it a text file? How do you access the output?
It's a database. So this is the Zap session. So you can reload it into Zap, but it's an HSQLDB database, so it's an open source database. So you can actually go in and look at the contents if you want to, but it's kind of fairly detailed. But if you load it back into Zap, then you'll be able to see all of the history requests and all the site information and things like
great.
that.
Okay.
So in this particular time, I don't want to persist this session because we're just kind of showing you things, and I will choose to remember my choice because I'm doing lots of demos. So what you'll then see is what is still a fairly complicated interface, and this is something we've been trying to make easier, but in the end, Zap does a lot of things. So the much easier interface is the HUD, which we will show in a different session, the next one. So what we have is we have this kind of quick start screen, which is a quick way to get involved in Zap to start using it. Now, we found that this is very useful for people who are new to Zap, but once you get more experience, you might not find this quite as useful. So what you can do is you can kick off an automated scan, which is quite useful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to test an application called owasp Juice Shop, and that is it's a deliberately vulnerable application, and it's a really useful one for playing around with. It's one which I think is really good, and it's actually one which automated tools like Zap find difficult to test. So it seems a strange choice, but it's a good example of what things work and what things don't. So one thing you'll notice is there are 3 different tabs here. We have on the kind of left-hand side the Sites tab, and we'll see in a bit that kind of shows a hierarchical view of your application. We've got at the bottom things like history and search, so things where we get lists of information will get displayed there. And then we've got a kind of work area where we've got the automated scan, but we've also got requests and responses and things like that.
As
Now
you're talking that, Simon, I see the HTTP. Does that mean I can point this at any site?
Yep, HTTP, HTTPS. So, I mean, one thing you have to be aware is that some of the things that Zap does are dangerous, and they are, you should only do some of the attacking things to applications where you have permission to test. So that either means you have, if you're at work, you should, whoever owns the service should give you permission, or you should, in this particular case, I've got Juice Shop running locally, so that's fine as well. But there's also a lot of organizations like Mozilla who have bug bounty programs, but you should still check what those bug bounty programs allow you to do. Some of them say you shouldn't use automated scanning, but you'll still be able to use the manual testing features there as well.
Okay.
So you will see a load of tabs down here. You might think there are a lot, but actually there are even more. So there's a whole load of extra tabs, which we hide things we think you don't need to know until you need them. And we actually have various options up here. So if you want to see all of the tabs available, you can click on there, and all of a sudden you see a lot more. And then you can kind of hide those again. If there are particular tabs you always want to keep, you can. So something like I'll pick the breakpoints tab. Actually, you can pin that. So that will then always stay there. And so one of the other things we found is that lots of Zap functionality is hidden behind right-click options. So one thing we always say is right-click everywhere, and you will actually see a whole load of different options wherever you write. So there'll be different options here, there'll be different options under requests, different options under sites.
So you're right-clicking in the.
I'm right-clicking in all of these things, so there's loads of different options.
All right.
One thing I will point out is this is Zap 280, but I have updated it. So we release main releases of Zap every so often. The last one was March this year. But we have this option to check for updates. So if you click on either check for updates or the marketplace tab, hopefully we'll see that, yep, Zap is on the latest version, but Zap has a plugin architecture. So we have loads of different plugins, some of which you'll get by a standard anyway. So you can actually see all of the add-ons here. And what we've been trying to do is move more functionality into add-ons because we can update them at any time. So you might find that there's not a new version of Zap, but there are actually some of the add-ons have been updated, particularly things like the web drivers, because browsers change quite quickly. We also have an online marketplace. So you can actually see all of the add-ons that you don't have installed that are available. Even though it's a marketplace, these are actually completely free.
Are those vetted, Simon?
They are, yes. So a lot of them are created by the Zap core team, but there's also there are ones which are created by the companies as well. So you should still be careful about what they do, but we do kind of work with those companies to make sure that they are good, and they're all open source as well. So I'm going to go back to the Quick Start tab, and I want to do a quick scan of the juice shop. So I've got various options, which we will talk about later, but I'm just going to have all the default ones.
Just so that people know if they're trying to recreate what you're doing here. Juice Shop is by Bjorn from owasp. That is an open source project that anybody can download and test.
Exactly, yes. So I've actually got it running in Docker at the moment. So I said it's a great project, a really fun one to play around with. And as you can see, because it's a demo, I typed it wrong. So I will correct the typing and try again. And there you see the Spider tab appeared. And we'll talk about exploring applications and spidering in a future episode. And now we're doing the active scanning. So now we're doing the actual attacking. And we can see all of these kind of attacks going on. And what you'll see is there's only one request in history because I've only made one request myself as part of that attack. But we will see that this is the hierarchical representation of the application. So we can see that we've got a whole load of assets, and actually we've got an FTP site here, which is there's a whole load of interesting things in here which you might want to play around with. So we can kind of see what the application looks like, and we can pick any of these particular requests. And so there was a request to robots.txt. We can see the headers. There's no body, obviously, because it's a GET request, and the response as well. Oh, look, disallow FTP. So it looks like someone didn't want us to find the FTP site, but Zap's going to find it anyway. So this gives you a very kind of quick overview of the kind of things. What will happen if you kind of right-click here? So you've got loads of different options. We've got this attack option where we've got things like the spider and active scan. So
we're going to explore these options in future episodes, right?
Exactly, yeah, because there's really not time in this one, is there?
So I think that we're at the end of our time on this one, unless there's anything else that you want to just highlight really quickly.
One thing I forgot was the help. So there's a little question mark icon here. This brings up the Zap user guide, and it's actually pretty much context sensitive. So when you go into something like options, you will find that a lot of these things also have the little question mark icon, and that'll bring up the context sensitive as well, help as well. So there's quite a lot of help there for people.
Excellent. Thank you, Simon. This is the video in the series of Zap in 10, and we've done a very quick tour of the interface. In future episodes, Simon's going to go through all of the functionality here. We'll be running demos and everything you need to make Zap useful in your environment. Simon, thank you. See you next time.
Thank you, Mark.